welcome to the deep dive. You ready to dive into another chilling tale?
Always.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Today we're going super in-depth with a single source. It's a first-hand account from someone who claims their house in Kyoto was haunted.
Oh, interesting. I love those kinds of stories. What kind of house are we talking about here?
That was Machiya.
A Machiya. Oh, wow. One of those traditional Japanese townhouses. They're so beautiful, aren't they? All that wood and history.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But in this case, maybe a little too much history, you know what I mean?
I can only imagine the atmosphere in those old places can be pretty intense.
For sure. So the big question we're diving into today is, was this house actually haunted? Or could something else explain what was going on?
That's a good question. What makes you think it might not be a straightforward haunting?
Well, the way the narrator describes it, they start off totally captivated by the Machiya, like super excited to own a piece of Japanese history. But then like this creeping sense of unease starts to like take over, almost like the house itself is pushing them away.
It's almost as if the house itself is a character in the story, sort of drawing the narrator in with its beauty and history while simultaneously giving them these unsettling vibes.
Exactly. Like it starts with these weird noises at night, scratching sounds coming from inside the walls, you know?
Oh no, inside the walls, that's creepy, like something trying to get out.
Right. And then there were these whispers, but the narrator can't understand what they're saying. Like it's in a language they don't recognize.
Ooh, in a language they don't recognize. That adds a whole other level to it, doesn't it? Imagine lying in bed at night, hearing voices coming from your walls and not even knowing what they're saying. That's nightmare fuel right there.
Absolutely. So like, that's already pretty spooky, right?
Yeah.
But then they find this hidden room.
A hidden room? Oh, come on. This is getting good. Was it like one of those secret rooms you only see in movies?
Exactly. Behind an old cabinet. The narrator even mentions these strange symbols carved into the door. Like, what were the builders trying to hide? What were they so afraid of?
Right. It's like opening Pandora's box, isn't it? It's that primal fear of the unknown, the idea that there are secrets hidden in plain sight, just waiting to be uncovered. And sometimes those secrets are best left buried.
You're telling me. And of course, what's a hidden room without a creepy old box tucked away inside?
Of course, what was in it?
So it's sealed with wax, and they find these old papers, ancient looking, and a figurine of a woman. But she's like frozen in this pose of agony. It's like a snapshot of pure suffering.
That's intense. What did they do with the papers? Could they read them?
Well, they tried to get help from a local historian, but even he refused to touch the papers. Talking about curses and forbidden knowledge, you know, that kind of stuff. Like even this guy who studies history for a living was freaked out.
Yeah, that definitely raises the stakes. If a historian won't touch them, you know something's up.
For sure. So what do? They turn to the internet, of course. They find some scholar online who can translate the papers and the story they uncover. Well, it's pretty wild. It's about a powerful onmyoji.
An onmyoji?
Yeah, like a spiritual advisor in ancient Japan. They were associated with magic and divination and stuff.
Oh, right. I've heard of those. Sort of like mystical advisors to the emperor, weren't they?
Exactly. So this onmyoji made a deal with a dark spirit, but it's not your typical deal with the devil kind of thing.
What kind of deal are we talking about then?
Involved a sacrifice.
A sacrifice? What did he sacrifice?
His wife.
His wife? Oh, wow. That's dark.
It gets even crazier. Remember that figurine they found? The one I told you about? The woman frozen in agony?
Yeah, I remember.
Well, the story says that's the onmyoji's wife.
Yeah.
Like, her spirit is trapped in that figurine, eternally suffering because of what he did.
So the haunting isn't just some random spirit causing mischief. It's this woman seeking revenge for her husband's betrayal. That adds a whole new level of tragedy to the story.
It really does. And it makes you think, is the house itself haunted, or is it just a container for her anguish?
I mean, it definitely sounds like the onmyoji tried to contain the spirit, but whatever he did didn't work. So now, centuries later, she's still there, stuck in the house, and maybe, just maybe, seeking a way out.
Right. And you'd think after learning all this, most people would just, move out.
Yeah, I'd be packing my bags.
But not our narrator. In fact, after the translation, things get even weirder. The figurine starts moving on its own.
Wait, what? The figurine moves? Like, actually moves?
Yeah, like it's coming to life.
Yeah.
And the whispers, they get more personal. They even start calling out the narrator's name.
Oh, no way. Calling out their name. That's terrifying. It's almost as if by uncovering the story, the narrator has given the spirit more power.
Right. Like they woke something up?
That's a chilling thought. Like, are we sometimes better off not knowing?
Especially when it comes to vengeful spirits, right?
Especially then. I mean, hearing your name whispered by something you can't see in your own house, I think I'd be sleeping with the lights on after that.
Oh, for sure.
It's like, you start to wonder at this point, is the narrator just losing it?
Right. Like, is it really a ghost? Or is it just, their imagination running wild because of the creepy atmosphere and this whole story about the Onmyoji's wife?
I mean, think about it. The timing is kind of suspicious, isn't it? Like, the more the narrator learns about the house's history, the worse things get.
True. It's almost like by digging up the past, they're like giving the spirit permission to mess with them even more.
Yeah. It's that classic horror movie trope, the meddling kids who uncover a dark secret and then suddenly they're the target.
Exactly. Makes you think, maybe sometimes it's better not to know too much.
Right. But then again, there's that part of us that can't resist a good mystery. Like, if I were in the narrator's shoes, I'd probably want to know everything too, even if it meant freaking myself out.
Totally. There's something about the unknown that just draws us in, even when it's scary.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not just about the fear, right? It's that fascination with the past, with other cultures. Like, in this case, the narrator's really into Japanese culture. They want to connect with the history of this Machiya.
And, when you're living in a place that's so steeped in tradition, where spirits and ancestors are a big part of the culture, well, it's easier to believe that something supernatural might actually be happening.
For sure. It's like the narrator's enthusiasm, their willingness to believe. Maybe it makes them more vulnerable, Like they're opening themselves up to this other realm.
It's like they're inviting the spirit in without even realizing it. But okay, let's talk about the climax of this story, the part that really sent chills down my spine. So the narrator finds the hidden door, the one with the creepy symbols.
Yeah, I remember the one.
It's wide open. And standing there is the woman from the figurine, the Onmyoji's wife, just like staring at them.
No way. She actually appeared.
That's what the narrator says. It's like all the creepy whispers, the moving figurine, it all led up to this moment. Talk about terrifying image. But it's also like so open to interpretation, right? What do you think it means?
Well, I mean, on one hand, it could be that the spirit finally managed to break free, even if just for a moment. Like she's reaching out, trying to connect with the narrator.
Or maybe it's a warning, like get out while you still can.
Ooh, that's a good one. But it could also be something more psychological, right? Remember, the narrator talks about feeling this overwhelming despair, like being consumed by darkness.
So you're saying it could be a manifestation of their own fears, not an actual ghost.
Exactly. Like the house and the story have gotten so deep under their skin that it's messing with their mind. It's their own internal struggle playing out in this like terrifying visual form.
So it's not just about whether the house is haunted, it's about whether the narrator is haunted by the story, by their own thoughts.
Exactly. And that's what I love about this account. It leaves you wondering, is it real or is it all in their head?
It's like that line between reality and imagination gets totally blurred. And honestly, after reading this, I'm still not sure what to believe.
Me neither. It's one of those stories that sticks with you, makes you question everything.
Totally. And I think that's part of the appeal of ghost stories, right? They tap into our deepest fears, the stuff we don't understand. And sometimes they force us to confront our own beliefs about what's real and what's not.
Absolutely. And this one definitely does that. It raises more questions than it answers. But maybe that's the point. Maybe some mysteries are better left unsolved.
Ooh, I like that. Okay, so where does this leave us? I mean, we've explored the history, the cultural context, even the psychology of this haunting.
Yeah, and what's so fascinating to me about this account is that it doesn't just leave you scared like some ghost stories do. It really makes you think,
Yeah, I agree. Like, this deep dive has been less about jump scares and more about like the bigger picture of hauntings,
Mm-hmm.
Like what they mean, why they happen, and what they say about us as humans.
Right. Like, is it just about restless spirits or is there something more going on?
Exactly. And this story with the Onmyoji and his wife and all that, it really throws a wrench in things, doesn't it?
For sure. It challenges our assumptions about what a haunting is and where it comes from.
Throughout this whole deep dive, I keep coming back to the narrator's fascination with Japanese culture. Like their desire to connect with the past, to almost become a part of this ancient world.
Right. And it's almost like That longing, that openness to belief, made them more vulnerable to the spirit's influence.
Like they were so eager to experience the magic of the Machiya that they opened themselves up to something they couldn't control.
Absolutely. And it ties into this broader theme we see in a lot of ghost stories, right? Like the power of belief.
Yeah.
Whether it's belief in the supernatural or belief in our own anxieties, it can shape our reality.
It's like our minds are so powerful that they can sometimes create the very things we fear the most.
Exactly. And this story, with its ambiguous ending, it leaves us with that lingering question. Was the narrator haunted by a real ghost or by their own internal demons?
It's the kind of question that sticks with you long after you finish reading the account, you know? It makes you question your own beliefs, your own experiences, and your own perceptions of reality.
And honestly, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. It's up to each listener to decide what they believe.
That's what makes it so thought-provoking, right? It's not just a scary story, it's a story that challenges us to think critically about the world and our place in it.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And that's why I love deep dives like this. We don't just get a quick thrill, we actually get to explore these complex themes in a meaningful way.
Right. It's like we're not just passively listening, we're actively engaging with the story and with each other, you know?
Totally. It's a shared experience of exploration and discovery.
And I think that's what makes the Dump Dive so special. It's a community of people who are curious about the unknown, who aren't afraid to ask tough questions, and who are always willing to go deeper.
I agree. And even though this particular deep dive is coming to an end, the conversation doesn't have to stop here.
Absolutely. I'd love to hear what our listeners think about this account, about the power of belief, about the nature of reality itself.
Me too. So keep those discussions going, folks. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep listening.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. Until next time.